Hey guys, in today's video, I want to show you a really cool and fascinating position that occurred in a recent Scrabble game played between our two favorite super grandmasters, Rigel Nichards and Sosh Jokol. I won't go through the whole game leading up to this position in detail, but it was a really fun game. In typical Rigel fashion, Rigel has played two amazing 9-letter bingos, Nemekush as well as Capybaras. Sosh, on the other hand, hasn't bingoed as much, but he's had a lot of really high-scoring plays, including the stylish Sloyd and Whizzes, both hitting triple word scores on the 8 row. And Sosh has just played the word invert in the bottom right-hand corner for 39 points to cut the deficit to 1. Rigel is currently sitting on turn with a 1-point lead, 454 to 453. Rigel's rack is not great. He's got 2 U's along with AILNT. The pool, on the other hand, is great. Rigel can see 8 tiles unseen, AEINRSTT. With 8 tiles unseen, that means Rigel knows there is 1 tile in the bag, and 7 of these 8 tiles are currently sitting on Sosh's rack. The catch, of course, is that Rigel doesn't know which is the 1 tile of these 8 that's currently in the bag. So, given that uncertainty, Rigel's task here is to find his play that gives himself the best chance of winning. In other words, the play that wins with the most possible draws out of the 8 that Rigel could conceivably get. Now, the amazing thing about this position is that even though Rigel has 2 U's and a seemingly pretty ugly rack, he actually has 2 playable bingos here. And they're the same word. He can either play Nautilus for 77 to the S in Whizzes, or Nautilus for 77 to the S in Sloyd. So Rigel has 2 seemingly amazing options from this rack. Which one of them is better? Let's think about it. Now, let's first consider the possibility of Rigel bingoing to the S in Whizzes. Now, you're probably thinking at first, alright, this is 77 points. Rigel's going to go up 78 points on a pretty closed board. How is Sosh going to come back? Well, the problem here, guys, is that Sosh now still has the S in Sloyd to work with for a bingo of his own, and that pool is really bingo prone. So let's think about what might happen if Rigel bingos over here and Sosh bingos on the other side of the board. So let's say, for instance, the A is in the bag and Rigel draws the A after bingoing with Nautilus on the right. Now, with EINRSTT, Sosh is going to bingo back with Stinters to the S in Sloyd. And this, just like Nautilus, also scores 77. So this will bring Sosh to 530, 1 below Rigel's 531. But here's the catch. After bingoing with Nautilus, Rigel drew the A out of the bag. Stinters was an out bingo for Sosh, which means that by rule, Sosh gets twice the value of Rigel's unplayed tiles as a bonus. Now, Rigel has an unplayed A, and A is worth 1 point. 2 times 1 is, of course, 2. So Sosh is going to get 2 bonus points added to his score. So it's actually now not Rigel who wins by 1, but Sosh. When this game is over, Sosh is going to win 532 to 531. Whoa. So then you might be thinking, okay, well, what if Rigel bingos to the other S? That was just 1 S. What if he bingos to the S in Sloyd? Well, it's basically the same problem. It's more or less symmetrical because now, again, let's assume Rigel draws the A. Sosh is just going to bingo to the other S, this time the one in Whizzes. And as before, this is going to bring Sosh to 530, and those key 2 points from Rigel's unplayed A are going to make the difference. Exactly as before, Sosh is going to win 532 to 531. So what's going on here? Regardless of which Nautilus Rigel bingos with, Sosh can bingo out to the other S and win by a point. Although that's assuming that Rigel draws the A out of the bag. There are a lot of other tiles Rigel could draw. So you might be thinking, alright, well, it's a little alarming that Rigel loses if he draws the A, but maybe he's at least safe if he draws a bunch of the other tiles. Well, let's think about it. If Rigel draws the E, Sosh is going to have transits, which will play to either S. If Rigel draws the I, Sosh is going to have tartness, which will play to either S. If Rigel draws the N, Sosh is going to have striates, which plays to either S. If Rigel draws the R, Sosh is going to have instates, which plays to either S. If Rigel draws the S, Sosh is going to have nitrates, which plays to either S. And finally, if Rigel draws either of the two T's, Sosh is going to have Stainers, which plays to either S. So amazingly, regardless of which S Rigel bingos to, and regardless of which tile Rigel draws from the bag, Sosh is guaranteed to have an out bingo to the other S. And here's the catch. Both of Rigel's bingos score 77. Any of the possible bingos Sosh could have that I just mentioned will score 77. All of the 8 unseen tiles are worth 1 point. And just as Rigel's rack here contains only 1 pointers, so would Sosh's. So with Rigel's bingo in either spot scoring 77, Sosh's would also score 77. And exactly as in the scenario we just saw, after the players trade 77-point bingos, it's Sosh, not Rigel, who bingos out. And that means, with Sosh still being down 1, he's going to get an extra 2 points for whatever Rigel draws from the bag and ends up on his rack, and Sosh is going to win by that same score of 532 to 531 in every single scenario. So, Rigel loses every time if he bingos with Nautilus in either spot. Truly shocking stuff. And not just shocking, but also extremely disheartening if you're Rigel. Because now you're thinking, well, if I'm not going to bingo with Nautilus, then what can I possibly do? Because I can't score even close to 77 with another play. And it doesn't even really help me to make any other play. If I play something like Few over here for 12, or if I play something like Unit over here for 13, it doesn't matter because I'm still emptying the bag with just 1 tile in the bag, even though I'm not bingoing. And Sosh is just going to bingo out and win regardless, and he's going to win by even more than he would if I bingoed. And it's pretty obvious that there's no way for Rigel to block both S's at the same time. They're on complete opposite sides of the board, so it's simply impossible for Rigel to make a word long enough to block both at once. He'd have to do something crazy on the 6th row, like, I don't even know what, like this, but come on, that's just not possible. So, Rigel cannot stop Sosh from bingoing to one of the S's on his next turn, and as we saw, if Rigel bingos himself, it's not enough, Sosh wins by 1. So that means Rigel is unfortunately completely sunk in this position. Or is he? Well, of course he is. Like I said before, Sosh is guaranteed to bingo out to one of the S's and win, regardless of what Rigel plays. But there's a catch, and Rigel was just about to bingo and concede defeat when he realized this. Rigel does not have to play. Scrabble is not chess. In chess, you're explicitly not allowed to pass your turn. That is not the case in Scrabble, though. You are allowed to pass, and passing holds the key to this position. Rigel here needs to pass his turn. Now, your first reaction might be like, that's crazy. Why would he pass and score 0 when he can score 77 immediately? Well, here's the thing, guys. Remember how I was saying that regardless of which S Rigel bingos to, Sosh is going to have access to the other S? Well, it's actually the same thing. Remember, Rigel can bingo himself to either S. So if Rigel passes and Sosh bingos to one of the S's, then Rigel can simply bingo to the other S. And now, Sosh is going to be the one who empties the bag, because there will be 1 in the bag on Sosh's turn after Rigel passes. And that means it's actually going to be Rigel, not Sosh, who gets the bonus points from the unplayed tile that was originally in the bag. Let me show you how this might work in action, since I know that might be a little confusing. In this position, if Rigel passes, then Sosh is going to be sitting on some rack that has 7 of those 8 tiles that were in the bag from Rigel's perspective. It really doesn't matter what that rack is. Let's just say, for example's sake here, that the A is in the bag, and Sosh can now bingo with Stinters to either S. It doesn't matter which S Sosh bingos to. Let's just say he bingos to this one. Whichever S Sosh does not bingo to, Rigel will bingo to on his next turn with Nautilus. And again, now Rigel does get a next turn, because there was still a tile in the bag when Sosh bingoed. And Sosh now, not Rigel, is the one who draws the A out of the bag because Rigel passed the turn back to Sosh. So now, watch what happens. Rigel bingos out with Nautilus for 77. And now Rigel is up 1, 531 to 530 as he was before. Remember though, When Rigel bingoed initially, Sosh got 2 bonus points because Rigel picked up the A. Now, Rigel passed, Sosh bingoed, Sosh picked up the A. So Rigel actually gets 2 bonus points from Sosh's unplayed A, and Rigel wins by 3, 533 to 530 when all is said and done. So as crazy as it sounds, guys, something as seemingly meaningless as who gets caught with a 1-point A in the endgame made all the difference here. In the original line, where Rigel bingoed immediately and allowed Sosh to bingo out, Rigel lost by 1. In this line, where Rigel passed and forced Sosh to bingo immediately, Rigel won by 3. And this all applies regardless of which of the 8 tiles are in the bag before Rigel's turn. So, what that means here is that passing in this position wins 8 out of 8 times for Rigel. Remember how I said before that bingoing immediately with either Nautilus loses all 8 out of 8? So it's the complete opposite here. Passing wins 100% of the time. Every other play in this position for Rigel, anything that puts a tile on this board, loses 100% of the time. I just think that's so amazing how not only is passing the only 100% win, it's the only play that doesn't always lose. And this is indeed confirmed, as you guys can see in the screenshot here, by the Macondo engine. Passing wins 100% of the time. Every other candidate play generated for Rigel wins 0% of the time. Truly amazing stuff. Now, before I close out this video, some of you may be wondering, well, wait a minute. If Rigel passes his turn, why can't Sosh just pass back? That is a great question, and that is absolutely a possibility we need to consider. The thing is, there's something in Scrabble called the 6-0 rule, which states that at any point during the game, if there are 6 consecutive scores of 0, so that can be exchanges, passes, challenged off phonies, then the game ends on the spot, and both players subtract from their score the total point value of all of the tiles on their rack. So if Rigel passes and Sosh passes back, then Rigel will simply pass again. And if we keep doing this such that Rigel passes 3 times and Sosh passes 3 times, for a total of 6 consecutive zeros, then the game is going to end on the spot. Rigel is going to lose 7 points because he has 7 1-pointers on his rack. Sosh is also going to lose 7 points because regardless of what Sosh has, he's going to have 7 1-pointers, as all of the tiles in the bag are 1-pointers. So what that means is Rigel is going to still win by 1. He's going to win 447 to 446 after, once again, both of the players lose 7 from their initial scores. So if Rigel keeps passing, Sosh cannot keep passing, or he is simply going to lose by 1. As such, Sosh would either be forced to just do that and lose by 1, or eventually make a play, after which, of course, as we've discussed, Rigel is going to simply bingo out to whichever S Sosh does not use with Nautilus and win the game. So, for those wondering, that is why Sosh cannot continue to pass back. Now, in case you're wondering what happened in the actual game, Rigel, in this position, as I mentioned earlier, at first was feeling fairly dejected after seeing that bingoing with Nautilus in either spot would lose by 1, but he did eventually come up with his brilliant idea of passing. It turns out that the E was the tile in the bag, so after Rigel passed, Sosh was sitting on AINRSTT. Sosh was smart enough to realize what Rigel was up to, so he knew that if he bingoed with transits to either S, that he was going to lose the game by a couple of points. So instead, Sosh came up with a very clever idea. He phonied with Trash Tiny for 80 points on the bottom of the board. Now, what's really cool about this play is now, if Rigel bingos out with Nautilus to either S, as I'll leave you guys to check, the game would actually end in a tie at 533 points apiece. So, if Rigel isn't that confident about whether Trash Tiny is good, he might want to consider leaving this on the board for a sure tie. Because if Rigel challenges this and it's somehow a word, then Sosh is going to simply play out on his next turn and win by a massive amount. So Rigel better be confident that Trash Tiny is not a word. Now, of course, this is Rigel Nichards we're dealing with here. He is one of the greatest super grandmasters to ever play the game of Scrabble. He knows his words. He knows that Trash Tiny is not valid. He promptly swats this off the board. This comes off, and Sosh loses his turn. Rigel passes again, And now Sosh tries bingoing with Transit and Sorganza for 86 points. Now this is not as good an effort as Trash Tiny, because Rigel actually has to challenge here. If he just bingos with Nautilus to the Essence Sloyd, he loses by 6. So even if he's not sure about Sorganza's validity, he absolutely has to challenge. Of course, again, this is Rigel Nichards. He knows for sure that Sorganza is complete bogus. This comes off the board, Sosh loses another turn, and Rigel passes for the 3rd consecutive time. And now Sosh is sunk, because 5 zeros in a row have happened. If Sosh passes or gets another phony challenged off, then we go into the 6-pass rule and Rigel simply wins by 1, as we discussed earlier. So Sosh decides to swallow his pride here and bingo with Transits for 77 points. Rigel, of course, immediately bingos with Nautilus to the other Essence Sloyd, and in a variant we saw earlier, he wins 533 to 530 in truly spectacular fashion. What a game, what a position, and what a play by Rigel to pass his turn and guarantee himself a win in that position when anything else whatsoever guarantees a loss. Truly amazing stuff. That's it for this video, guys. Shout out to Rigel and Sosh on such an amazing and entertaining game and position. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Would you have thought to pass in that position? Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate your support. I'll see you soon for the next video. Bye-bye.